What's poppin' Fight Court? We are here live in effect. I'm your boy Dean Thomas, joined with Ryan Quinn and Natalia Rivera as always. Okay, so today we have a very touchy subject, and I call this touchy because some people might agree, some people probably won't agree, and I would have to say more people probably won't agree with me on this. I'm not sure how Ryan and Natalia feel about this, but the subject today is we've always revered the career of Khabib Nurmagomedov. Some would call him the GOAT. Some might think he's the greatest of all time. And yes, he had a great career. But was it better than some others that are currently still fighting? That is the question. So the question I pose to you guys today, we're going to pick a very specific person. And today's person is Kamaru Usman. Did Khabib Nurmagomedov, I can't even say his name right. Did Khabib Nurmagomedov have a better career than the one that Kamaru Usman is having right now? Ryan, plead your case.
We'll never know because he cut his career short. And because of that case, Kamaru Usman had the better career. I think that a lot of people get caught up in what they've seen the fighter do. And what do I mean by that? Like, yes, Khabib had a very dominant career. You could argue he had one of the most dominant careers ever, although I feel he lost to Gleison Chibao, defended 13 takedowns, outstruck, but whatever. And when it comes to Usman, he wasn't crazy dominant in his fights. He was winning, but like he wasn't doing that smash. But you got to look at his strength of schedule. To start, first of all, he had 5 title defenses to Usman's 3. And the person he beat for the title was arguably the greatest welterweight of all time. And on top of that, like, I feel like the welterweight division was much more rich in the history of mixed martial arts as opposed to the lightweight division. I feel like that people want to say, oh, he has to have been the best ever in his division in order, which is not what they're saying, but it's what they're thinking, because people want to compare Usman to GSP, maybe Matt Hughes, but he already beat Woodley, who, like I said, was arguably the best. Strength of schedule is there. He beat Sean Strickland, who ended up becoming a champion in a heavier weight class. And then when you look at the lightweight division, first of all, I think beating Conor McGregor is a little bit of a bloated stat, if you would, for Khabib. As we know, Conor's been exposed. And I think that I just feel strength of schedule and the weight of the schedule, it favors Usman all the way.
Natalia?
So I think it depends on the angle and the aspect that we're talking about. Talking about specifically caliber of opponents, I think you're right. I think Usman has faced tougher opponents. He has beat them already. I think Nurmagomedov, the names that he has faced definitely are great. But if we compare them, Usman's opponents are tougher. I think they're tougher and they have accomplished more. The other hand is the 2 divisions. I think that Khabib was always a welter, and he should have tried in that division. The weight cuts were mortal for him, and that is something that we have seen Usman do, which is going up for the division in his last fight and having a really competitive battle with Chimaev. But in the other aspect, as a figure in their own country, I think that Khabib is bigger. I think he has better, not necessarily charisma, but he has like an angel. Like he has this aura that he embraces, and as a personality, he's more powerful, I think, and that is why he has a bigger fan base, and he means what he means for Russia. That doesn't happen, I think, with Usman and Nigeria or the United States. He's a little bit flat as a personality in my perspective. So there's 2 angles. I would go for Usman as a fighter. I would go for Khabib as a personality and the whole thing.
Well, here's the thing, though. Like, I'm going to touch on this personality thing because it's kind of unfair to Usman for that. Because
What?
when you talk about personalities and people getting behind them, especially when you're talking about countries getting behind their countrymen, that doesn't have it doesn't really have a lot to do with Usman as much as it does Nigeria or Khabib as much as it does Dagestan and what it represents. Because the country, you can't for instance, the Irish got behind Conor. And there's a reason why they got behind Conor, because they have nothing else going on over there. They had no other.
No,
They don't have
it's
any
because
boxers. They don't have
Conor is a
any.
star. Conor is just like, he's a thunder.
But
It's
it
impossible
became a
not to
star.
follow
But it
him.
became a star because of the backing of Ireland. That's what started his stardom. And for Khabib, for him to have the country behind him doesn't say more about Khabib as much as it does about the country itself to get behind their fighters, because Black people don't get behind MMA fighters. It doesn't happen in Black America. And as much as we've known it, it hasn't happened in Nigeria neither, because they're not getting behind Usman. And we don't really even know, because we don't have a lot of access to MMA in Nigeria, because they might even want to get behind them.
It's funny you say that. Like, Usman almost had to split the crowd with Ngannou at the time too. So.
And yeah, timing is everything. Timing is everything.
Yeah.
He had to split the crowd. Well, Ngannou, when you talk about Africa, like, he had to split the crowd with Ngannou because of Africa, because Ngannou's from Cameroon, Usman from Nigeria. But timing is everything. And the timing in which Khabib came out. Think about this. Khabib came out, and when he was doing his best work, now let's take away his highest profile fights, but when he was doing his best work were against opponents who kind of weren't stylistically great for him. They were stylistically great for him, rather.
Mm-hmm.
Edson Barbosa, Michael Johnson, that one dude who came in on short notice. Can't even remember his name.
Oh,
Daryl Horcher.
Oh.
So,
I also agree with Ryan, with what Ryan said about the Tibau fight. Like, that was,
and we thought he lost that fight. So think about this though. But like, at the time where he did his best, most dominating work was against those guys, and he built up a mystique. And I believe that mystique carried him through those fights against Gaethje and against Poirier, because I think when they fought him, they felt like, oh no, if I get taken down, I'm doomed. And I think the timing of him having those fights and building up that reputation, he carried that in with him against those higher profile fights against Gaethje, Poirier, and kind of even Conor. Even though Conor did the best against him, like, you still had that mystique of, if he gets you down, you're doomed. And I think he just kind of freaked those guys out. But Usman, on the other hand, never really had the mystique, never really had the reputation. In fact, I trained Woodley for Usman, and we looked at Usman like it was going to be an easy fight. So that's what I'm saying. Like, when guys was fighting Usman, they thought it was going to be an easy fight.
It's funny. You bring up the mystique, and that was like, it's almost like this is another reason why Usman was a victim of the time, because he was fighting people with that mystique. Colby Covington, who had a lot behind him, Masvidal, just brought up the Woodley fight. The Woodley fight gets so overlooked. I don't care what anyone says. Like, yeah, I have more to this, but we can keep going here. We can keep going.
Keep going. No, keep going.
All right. So now, okay. So as I said, he beat Woodley. Let's just pretend that Woodley's not arguably the greatest welterweight of all time. Whoever looks at as one of the GOATs, George St. Pierre. How does Usman do against the George St. Pierre?
You have to believe that he would have lost.
Okay, but is it competitive? Like,
it would be competitive if you look at St. Pierre's. history of going up against certain type of opponents, it could have been. And it also depends when he fought Usman too, right?
Okay.
Are
Yeah.
we talking about Usman at his peak,
Yeah.
or
There's levels to this conversation that I didn't add. Let's say, what's going to be the more competitive fight, Usman versus GSP or Khabib versus Prime BJ Penn?
I think BJ would have beat him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I think so too.
I
That's what
think
I'm
BJ would
saying.
have beat him. I think
That's that's
Wow.
Prime
that's what I'm
BJ would have beat
saying.
him.
That's a fantasy
But
fight that I would
there's
love to,
there's
like.
also something
Mhm.
that we didn't go to see, which is the the evolution of Khabib, because he put an end to his career when he was in his prime. We don't know where he could have got to.
Absolutely,
Uh-huh.
absolutely. Like, and and that's almost even. I mean, I agree with you 100%, and we're in a time in MMA where he should have been more involved as opposed to what BJ Penn was back in the early 2000s. So.
Yeah, but that's the thing too. I mean, it's so hard to compare time frames because the
Mhm.
game is so different.
Mhm.
So the only way I can kind of remotely try to make this comparison is to say if BJ was in now based on what the skill set that he had, right? If he had the access to the techniques and training today, how good would he have been? He would have been damn good had he had the access to the training and the resources today. Because think about how good he was just with the little training and just the little resources that we had back then.
And the fight IQ is just astronomically better now, 15 years
Yeah,
later.
that's what
Yeah,
I'm saying. It's just everything
Mhm.
is
all the
better.
technology, everything.
Right.
Mhm.
Everything is better. So, but if you were to say, okay, if you were to take that athlete and put him today and give him the opportunity to train with these resources, how much better would he have been? And if you think of it like that, like BJ, his physical gifts were just on a different level. Like he was able to put his feet behind his head without using his hands. I mean, that's just crazy to me. Like he was able to do things physically that no one could do.
What
So
I sorry, what I really appreciate about what you were saying, Dean, and comparing that to Usman is that he kept trying, and I think that is something that you have to admire, because before he lost the title shot, he was 21, and he put his record, that amazing record, on the line to keep going. So that also gives him something extra that we can't say Khabib has.
well, let me ask you this. So I think we all agree from a fighting standpoint that Usman has the more impressive career, right?
Yes.
Because I think we all agree with that. Um, but would you say that? And I don't want to use the word punk.
But you
um,
did.
but would you say that Habib uh, bowed out? Do you think he bowed out because he didn't want to lose?
I don't. I truly believe that there's an honor and loyalty thing there that I respect astronomically, but he had years left. I really don't. I mean, it just I've been around a lot of these Dagestanis and stuff. I don't think that that's in their mindset. I truly believe if there's any fighters or any culture that I've seen who strongly believe, like, they strongly stick to their religion and everything, that their culture, it's them. And so I truly believe that he made the hard decision, because he felt that way. And I don't think he ducked out. Who was he ducking out to at that time? Tony
I know it
Ferguson.
wasn't. I mean, again, like it was like he left at a time where again he had beaten the top
The
guys.
pandemic.
Mhm.
Yeah, and he had beaten the top guys.
Yeah, I think
So
if we see this like a video game, which a lot of people see it as that, life in general, he's like an amazing player. Like he's a winner. He made an amazing career, undefeated, really loyal to his family, his values. Even though they're not mine, he's still, in that line. Uh, got there to the major octagon in the world, make himself a whole brand. Now he has Eagle and his promotion. he's a coach. He has a champion right now with Makachev. He's also transmitting, and I'm sure he's kind of living a little bit through Makachev his own goals as a coach. So he's just a winner in a lot of aspects. And I still keep my perspective of he has more charisma, he has more aura, an angel than Usman. You know, when I see Usman conferences, I'm not exactly excited about it. And I think that's something that a lot of people share. He's not a person that, have this speed of work. He's a great fighter. He's strong as hell. But he's not, I don't know. I think personality is a big part of this game.
What do you think Usman lacks in terms of personality?
Swag.
Which is funny because like when you, which is this is what I'm saying. Like it's funny that you say that because when you see him, he's always all swagged out.
Yeah, maybe I don't get it, maybe through the screen, because that could happen.
Well, no, and this is what I think too is that we overgeneralize the success of people and what ingredients and chemistry it takes in order to make a success in terms of like resonating with fans and how you are perceived by the public. I think we overgeneralize it. I think we just look at it as you're hot or you're not. And I think that there's so many different variables involved, and Usman has like most of them. It's just a couple of things that he might be lacking that doesn't allow him to really grab the fans. And I think that's what it is that when you talk about a guy like Sean O'Malley, he's got a lot of those things that grab the fans. I mean, he looks like most of them. He's a skinny white kid, and they all can relate to him. And he grabs them, and he's got huge balls, and he's beating guys that he shouldn't be beating. I think that people really resonate with that. Like it kind of gives him an underdog story. And for Usman, I just don't think his underdog. Like if he has an underdog story, coming from Nigeria and working hard, the MMA fans just can't relate to that because most of them aren't from Africa, and they can't relate to being able to come here and work the way he did. So I think that it's harder. I think it's harder for a guy like Usman to really become a star, just because
But
there's not a lot. There's not a lot that he can do.
Khabib was really humble as well. He comes from like the mountains. He didn't have much. So I think like there's a lot of fighters that comes from a hard background that could relate, even though we're far from each other.
Well, but that's the thing too. But I mean, again, the ingredients are a little different for everybody. So right now, when we look at the Dagestani guys, we automatically get behind them because they got the beard, no mustache, and we automatically assume that they're going to be really good and they're undefeated, and we just automatically assume that they're going to be the next big thing. It happened with Hamza. It's happened right now with the Bullet, with the one eye. You know what I'm saying? Like we just automatically give them a pass of being good and wanting to root for them to be good to kind of confirm our bias that we think that they're going to be good. Well, Francis Ngannou, he's a big black monster looking guy. We wanted him to be good. So when he was good, we attached ourselves to that. But Usman's just for some reason doesn't have that thing. And I'm not 100% sure what it is that he needs to do in order to get that thing, to get people to be able to relate to him. But Khabib had it and Khabib kind of started it in Dagestan because he was the first one that really was killing everybody. So he kind of started it. And then his whole thing with Conor, so he kind of started it. And then everybody just got behind him. But so I'm not saying that it's easier for them because Khabib, he wasn't always as popular as he is now. So you got to give him credit for being who he is and what he did. But for Usman, I don't think it's as simple as he's just lame. I mean, he's kind of lame, but I don't think it's that simple. I'm not sure what he needs to do. Natalia, you might know, like from a female perspective, like what would make you want to date a guy like that?
I think like, for example, in the conference when he was next to Rockhold, and they were showing like the chest and everything. That was a funny moment. I don't know, but I felt like Rockhold was more loose than Usman. I feel like Usman um, tries a little bit hard, so it takes away his authenticity. And I think, I don't know if this is related to what happened first to him, that he was saying that he was American, then Nigerian, then American, then Nigerian. He had a lot of hate from the fans. And that, of course, is going to affect your, the way that you approach to them through the microphone. So I don't know if it's associated. That happened when he was also like younger. And we're people, we're humans, we get affected by those things. So I think that maybe he tries hard and then he should be more authentic. It's what happened with Paulo Costa. He was trying hard. Also, the language is also a big barrier. It's important for people like us that come from another place to speak English. It's going to be a limited always. But Paulo Costa started to be himself, and then he got this huge fan base. He changed completely. So I think with Usman could happen something like that.
I think you bring up the American Nigerian, and Dean, you're an actor, and when it comes to TV series, character arc is very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And when you flip like a personality or a theme or whatever, there's going to be that vanilla stage, and he was kind of going through that vanilla stage when he was kicking ass in fights. So it's like and then he ran into then he's got guys who are really hot on the mic like Kobe and Jorge. He ran into a little trouble with Jorge on the mic because first of all, George is slick on the mic,
Yeah,
but
he's really good on the mic.
so that's tough. Don't fight that battle. And then you're gonna lose that personality battle to somebody like that. But I remember when he had complimented George before, and then he was on the mic once, and everyone blew it up when he was asked about George when George was, and he said who, and then that kind of blew up in his face. So that kind of like hurt his character a little bit. But then it's funny, man. Towards the end, he was himself and he was the best. But I feel like just all those character arcs kind of like it messed with his personality to the fans, if that makes sense.
That's true, because like the fans want to take the ride with you, but if you being too goddamn hard to ride, they don't want to ride with you.
Yeah, they're like, all right,
they reject you.
Yeah, they're just like, all right, we don't trust them. No, like they want to be able to trust you too. Like we know where you're going with this. Like we want to ride with you, so we kind of we with you on this. And I guess you're right about that. Is that he didn't give the fans a lot of space
Himself.
on his train to ride with it. Because he was like always in a sense trying to be maybe too cool, right? Like he thought maybe that, and that's the thing why you can't be disingenuous.
It sucks that it has to be that way too. It's just worry about how he performs. Who gives a shit how he is in his personal life?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what sucks is that you can't be fake, because it people see it right away.
It's a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, so you I mean, that's why when people try to be fake and do some things because they think that because it worked, again, it's not that simple. Just because it worked for Conor doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Because it worked for O'Malley, it's not going to work for you. So people think that because it worked for them, it's going to work for you. And it never works if it's fake. It don't work. Like when you look at Robbie Lawler made a career of never saying a word. His career, the only words that you remember Robbie said was, "I take souls." That's it.
Yeah.
And he made a career off of that, of not saying nothing.
But that is himself. Right. That is himself. So it's not forced. And you can tell when someone is forcing something and when it's not. It's like really easy, especially if you have your intuition there. So people can sense that. Also, what we were saying, Ryan, we don't care about their private lives, but there are a lot of fans that do care, and we have talked about the MMA fans.
We do care.
Exactly.
I get behind it all too.
But it's because there's a lot of fans that don't have a life, and they just hate, or they just throw everything that comes through their mind, quickly, without being empathic, without thinking that the other person is actually a human, is going through stuff, is in their fight week, is with a lot of things going on, and they just throw it. So and we just saw that with McGregor. Everybody's into his life of what he's doing, what he's drinking, what he's licking, what he's kissing, and it's just why. But there's a lot of people who do that.
That's what gotta be annoying as hell. For like every move you make, everybody's always watching, and I mean, to me, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth the money. I would never do it. I would never want to be Conor. I would never trade what I'm doing now to be Conor. I don't care how much money he has. It's not worth it.
No.
I would never want people plan me that closely, watching my every move like that. That's like a prison.
No way.
That's worse than that's prison. And my man is always in trouble because he, has a hard time dealing with that. I could never do that. Never. All right, so I think we've settled this. So, but Natalia, I'm excited for you today. You have your very first felon.
Yeah.
About him.
My first felon of the week is Ian Escusa. I'm bringing the Peruvian heat, the Peruvian swag, the Peruvian spice. So he comes from Muay Thai. He has trained this discipline and fight actively for 10 years now. And he became Muay Thai world champion in 2017. He transitioned to MMA recently. He started his professional MMA career on 2021. He's 4-0 now. And all his wins have come by finish, 2 submissions, 2 knockouts in the first round. He's really promising. He's fighting this Thursday for the featherweight title for Inca FC, which is a big promotion here in Peru. We have seen through that octagon Chito Vera, Marlon Morales. And also he's part of the first generation of the Mexico Performance Institute. And hopefully we see him soon around in the UFC. He's a great, great fighter and an awesome human being of what I've seen so far.
Listen, Peruvian dude, don't fuck this up.
Yeah, man.
This is your chance.
You gotta buck me up. Buck me up.
Yeah. Don't mess it up.
This is Natalia's first felon.
Yeah.
I'll be disappointed.
Come on.
What if like right after this he gets arrested?
Oh man. I'm going through with the opponent. I'm going with the opponent like Ryan.
So we, like Natalia, we didn't want real felons on here. It's just a moniker.
All right, well, we will be on the lookout for my man. Best of luck to you. And I appreciate you guys. As always, you guys are the best. This is the highlight of my week. So let's do it again next week. More stuff to come next week. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the fights. If you like the show, hit like, share, and subscribe. And on that note, this court is adjourned.